Hello, my name's Steve Hayes. I'm with AllSafe Industries, a veteran-owned small business providing technical safety equipment to industry, first responders, and our military. This video series will discuss multi-gas instruments available from AllSafe Industries. The idea here is to provide a brief side-by-side comparison to show you the features and benefits that you might find useful in your next multi-gas instrument. If this video helps you in any way, we would appreciate some help from you. A simple thing you can do is to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It will help more people just like you find this video. An even better thing that you can do is to be our customer. We think you'll appreciate our quick customer service and the attention to detail that you're about to see in this video. We offer multiple brands and we provide service and training. Thank you in advance for whatever you decide to do. Before we begin, let's talk about some basics. First, all the various names that we use to talk about gas detection, or gas meters, or gas instruments, or sniffers. Any sort of device that's going to help to test the air that you're about to breathe or work in to ensure your safety. The basic categories of gas detection are single gas meters, 4 gas meters, and multi-gas meters. A single gas meter is just that. It's designed for one sensor to detect one type of gas or a family of gases like combustible gases or volatile organic compounds. 4 gas meters are by far the most popular choice and utilize 3 or 4 sensors to measure the gases that you would most likely encounter in a confined space. They are oxygen, flammables or combustible gases, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen sulfide. Some manufacturers use a combination CO-H2S sensor to keep the meter small and affordable. You can configure your 4 gas meter for use with other sensors, but these 4 are the most widely used. And finally, multi-gas instruments. These meters use between 4 and 7 sensors, depending on the brand, to detect all the gases simultaneously. It is the most advanced out of the ones that we've discussed and the topic of this video series. Let's begin. First, some background. In the late 1990s, the first multi-gas instrument was introduced by combining a 4 gas meter with a PID sensor, a photo ionization detector. I'm referring to the MultiRAE by RAE Systems. Because it was first to market, it quickly became the most popular multi-gas instrument available, and now all manufacturers have a multi-gas instrument in their lineup. So in this video series, we'll use the MultiRAE as the basis for comparison to the other multi-gas instruments that are available from AllSafe Industries. In this video series, we'll discuss the following points for each meter: sensor options, sampling options, power options including runtime, the user interface including the display and the buttons, and the different automatic prompts that you might see when you're using the meter, bump tests and calibration options available, software options on how to configure your meter or download data, sharing options, how would you get those readings from your screen on your meter to a computer screen or a cell phone nearby. And finally, unique features between the 2 different meters that we're going to compare. Let's begin. In this multi-gas comparison video, we'll compare the MultiRAE from Honeywell to the G7c from Blackline Safety. First thing we'll talk about are the sensor options. So with the MultiRAE, we have 5 different sensor slots measuring up to 6 different gases. We can pick up 2 gases with 1 combination sensor for CO and H2S. We have 25 different sensors that we can choose from, and those include electrochemical sensors for oxygen and some of your toxic gases, a catalytic bead LEL sensor, a PID sensor in 4 different lamp powers, and an infrared sensor either for combustible gases or carbon dioxide. For Blackline Safety, the G7c, we use a sensor cartridge, so not individual sensors. You can see 2 screws on the side of the meter hold this sensor cartridge. This is one complete assembly that you would order from the factory. So it's a 4-sensor cartridge measuring up to 5 gases. And once again, we can use a CO H2S combination sensor that would get you to 5 if CO and H2S are 2 of the gases that you want in your setup. We have 20 different sensors that we can choose from, and those include electrochemical for oxygen and toxic gases. Blackline Safety uses a MPS LEL sensor, different than a catalytic bead sensor for your combustible flammable gases. We have a PID sensor and an infrared sensor for combustibles and carbon dioxide. For sampling options, the MultiRAE can either be a diffusion in the MultiRAE Lite, or all of the other versions of the MultiRAE would be a pumped instrument, pulling through up to 100 feet of tubing. The Blackline Safety G7c is diffusion and pumped. So if I was using this in diffusion mode, and that's how a G7c boots up, is in diffusion, you can see some gaps underneath these little label bars, and that's how the gas diffuses into the sensors in diffusion mode. But this unit also has a pump module on back. So when I go through the menus to activate the pump, once the pump is running and I've tested it, now I can use my pump to draw gas samples to the sensors, and the gas sample comes up through that port right there, and then it's distributed to all 4 sensor slots in the cartridge. So the G7c is diffusion and pumped. For power options, we've got alkaline or rechargeable for the MultiRAE. You'll have 12 hours of runtime or 18 hours using their extended runtime battery pack that's available. For the G7c, it is a rechargeable instrument, and the battery on here runs 18 hours, but you can also connect a power pack to the back of the unit that would double your runtime to 36 hours. Now let's talk about the user interface. First of all, the MultiRAE is 31 ounces. It has 3 buttons: a power button, a yes plus, and a no minus button to make menu selections. We can also password protect the menu in the MultiRAE. It has a monochrome display, which we'll see when we do the power up here in a little bit. And then we can program prompts to ask us for a fresh air calibration, a bump test, or a full calibration. By comparison, the G7c from Blackline Safety weighs only 9 ounces. This is the lightest instrument in the comparison video series that we're doing on multi-gas. It has 5 buttons to operate. It has a power button, it has an OK button, an up button, and a down button to navigate your on-screen menus. And then it has the SOS latch. So when you pull this, it is like pulling a fire alarm. It sends a signal to the Blackline Safety monitoring service. Programming is done through the customer web portal. So you would log into your portal to change your configuration settings on your G7c. It has a high contrast LCD display. You'll see that when it's in diffusion mode, it's a dark background with white characters. And when it's in pump mode, it's a white background with dark characters on screen. It will prompt you when a bump or a calibration is due, and when you activate the pump, it's going to ask you to do a pump stall to confirm that the pump is working properly. You can also program the G7c to prompt check-ins from your user. This is especially useful in lone worker situations. For bump checks and calibrations, you can process both of those through onboard menus on the instrument, but you can also run these through the calibration stations, the AutoRAE 2 for the MultiRAE or the Blackline dock for the G7c. For software options, the MultiRAE has both paid and free options. The free software would allow you to reconfigure the instrument, download your data files, make some settings changes. The paid software would allow you, with the use of some additional accessories, to connect these instruments to software so that you can see that information on a website. With the G7c, a service plan is required, so you'll choose your service plan, and that's going to provide you portal access for data, programming, and reporting. For sharing options, the MultiRAE would use an optional mesh radio. So if you order your MultiRAE as a wireless instrument, it will have a mesh radio card installed that would communicate with other accessories and the subscription to the software program in order to see that data on another screen. With your G7c, it has built-in cellular connectivity and a GPS radio. So as long as you have good cell service, this instrument will connect to the cell tower and then send that information up to the Blackline Safety portal. And last but not least, some of the uniques that you'll see with the MultiRAE and the G7c. There are 3 different versions of the MultiRAE: a light version, a regular MultiRAE, and a MultiRAE Pro. The Pro has the ability to provide a part per billion range PID sensor and a gamma radiation sensor. Some of the unique features with the G7c are the cellular communications, push-to-talk option, GPS location, the dual sampling methods, both diffusion and pumped on that particular cartridge, and the ability to send out an SOS signal for lone worker applications. So let's go ahead and power up both meters and watch them boot up into their run modes. So power buttons. Both instruments will give you an audible to let you know that you've pressed the power button long enough. Once again, my MultiRAE is going to go through a 2 or 3 minute warm-up sequence. My G7c is already giving me some information about some of the features that are turned on, telling me my VOC target gas, my alarm set points, my oxygen set points, my LEL set points, 10 and 20 as per the usual, my carbon monoxide alarm set points, my hydrogen sulfide alarm set points. And now please wait while sensors initialize. Back over to the MultiRAE. All the sensors are going through their warm-up sequence and also reporting their alarm set points. There's my oxygen sensor. I've already gone through several sensors. This is oxygen. There's H2S. There's my CO sensor set points. My MultiRAE has reached the end of its warm-up sequence and it's asking me if I want to do a fresh air calibration. My G7c has also reached the end of its warm-up sequence. It did an automatic 0 on the sensors, and now it's reminding me that a bump test is due. So I can either perform the bump test or I can just clear that prompt by pressing the up and down arrows simultaneously. On the MultiRAE, if I want to go ahead and begin this fresh air calibration, I would hit start, or I can quit the fresh air calibration. I don't have to do it. I typically like to start with a fresh air calibration. I'm going to skip it for now. So I still get the bump test due message at the top of the G7c, but I have all my readings shown. Start with the MultiRAE and then compare that to the G7c as far as the information that I get on screen. So here's my main gas reading screen showing me all of my readings and their concentrations, either in percent or part per million. If I hit the arrow button, I get my peak reading display. If I hit the arrow button again, these are my min readings, the lowest number I've had since the meter's been turned on. My short-term exposure limit readings for my toxic sensors. I haven't run 15 minutes yet, that's why I haven't calculated what my short-term exposure limits are. My time-weighted average readings for my toxic sensors. My date and my time. My temperature readout. My battery type, voltage, and what percentage I'll be reading when the meter will begin its shutdown sequence because it's out of battery power. My current runtime versus my previous runtime. My VOC gas status page, which reminds me that my calibration gas I used was isobutylene. My measurement gas is isobutylene, therefore my correction factor is a 1. Any number times 1 is the same number. I get another screen for my LEL gas status. My calibration gas is methane, my measurement gas is methane, therefore my correction factor is a 1. And then my last page is my Enter Communications Mode screen. It reminds me that my data logging and my measurement will pause if I enter this communication mode. This is a maintenance screen. So if I say yes to this, you can see that I can communicate with a personal computer, with an RAE 2 calibration station, or I can drop down to exit, and then I go back to that intercommunication mode screen. If I advance the screen one more time, I come back to my main reading screen with my real-time readings of my 5 different sensors. On the G7c, if I press the OK button 2 times, you'll get into the main menus. I have back to status screen, obviously. If I use the down arrow button, I can go into my different programming modes. I have gas options menu. I have messages. So again, this is a cell phone based instrument. I can send messages back and forth to the portal. My time, I have an accessory menu, I have a settings menu, and then I have some advanced information. I want to show you really quick for gas options, and there's my choices. I can zero my sensors again, I can run a bump test, I can run a calibration, and I can view gas info. So as I mentioned before, the G7c boots up into fusion mode, and I have this mode menu here that I can use to select a different mode, including turning on the pump. So let me show you how that would work. If I hit OK to modes, then I have different modes I can put the instrument in. A normal mode, which is diffusion, a pre-entry mode, which runs the pump just long enough to be able to take pre-enter readings in my confined space. I can run the pump continuously, or I can set it in leak check mode. I want to power up the pump on this unit. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my 12 feet of tubing so that I can run my sample tests here in a minute. You can see the connection here and how these two pieces interface, and then you want to twist it to lock it in. Make sure that tubing is locked in so it doesn't come loose while you're doing your work. My screen timed out, so I got to go back into it. So I'm going to drop down to modes, hit OK. I want to drop down to pump run, hit OK. And then it says switch to pump run mode, and I want to select yes. So right now it's starting up the pump. You'll see that it says do not block while it's doing this initial boot up, and you'll see that the flow rate will start to increase here. Once it ramps up to run speed, it's going to ask me to block my inlet, which it just did. So I'm going to take the end of my tubing and block it. You can see that that's dropped back down to 0, which is a good sign. And now it's asking me to unblock the inlet. Block test passed. And now you can see that the screen has inverted. It's a white background with black characters on screen. This reminds me that now my pump is running. So let's go ahead and run that comparison test just so that we can see the pump draw and the comparison of the response to the PID sensor to a simple alcohol wipe. So let me attach some tubing to my MultiRAE. This is a lure fitting connection, so you want to make sure when you attach that lure fitting that it's a good snug fit so that you don't bring in any fresh air and dilute out your gas sample. I'm going to bring in my stopwatch here to time the response time here, grab both ends of the tubing. Then I'm going to take my alcohol wipe and hit start. And then watch the readings on the instruments. Both of those went into alarm right about the same time. Got into the 200s over here, got into the hundreds over here. I've already recovered on my MultiRAE, and I'm just about recovered on my G7c. You can see my MultiRAE has nearly recovered to 0, and my G7c is on the way down to 0 itself. So good response time on both instruments. For more details, I would encourage you to visit the Allsafe Industries website. At the top of the page, click Resources, then scroll to the Gas Detection Instrument section and click Gas Meter Comparison Chart. Here you'll find information organized by meter type with links for each so that you can do some price comparisons. Of course, please call us to answer any questions you might have, to schedule a virtual demo, or to request a quote. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, call our toll-free number, or fill out a contact form on our website. We're here to serve you, and we would appreciate having you as a customer. Thank you.